It's 10 a.m. by the studio clock. You're watching Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Tina Jha with the breakfast news. And these are the headlines we are tracking this morning. Question mark hangs over Foreign Secretary level talks with Pakistan. Afghan police claim that Pakistani army officers took part in the attack on Indian consulate in Mazar-e-Sharif. PDP ends suspense on government formation in Jammu and Kashmir. Party says Mehbooba Mufti to take over as Chief Minister and continue alliance with the BJP. Vice President Mohammad Hamid Ansari will declare Kerala as the first state in the country to achieve total primary education. Announcement to mark culmination of the second phase of Atulyam program. US President Barack Obama delivers the last State of the Union address of his presidency, outlines major policy initiatives for his last year in office. And suicide attack in Turkish capital Istanbul. Islamic State bomber kills 10 people and injures 15 others. Most of the victims are German tourists. Our top story this morning. Senior Afghanistan police officials claim that Pakistani military officers were involved in the attack on the Indian consulate in Mazar-e-Sharif last week. The assailants attempted to storm the mission building at the same time when 6 terrorists from Pakistan attacked the airbase in India's Pathankot on the 1st of January. Media reports state that the latest information on the Kabul attack has further strengthened speculation that the scheduled Foreign Secretary level talks could be postponed by a few days or even weeks. Investigation so far into the Pathankot attack has identified the Pakistan-based Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Maulana Masood Azhar as the mastermind. Key roles have been attributed to his associates and family members like Abdul Rauf Asghar, Maulana Ashfaq Ahmed, Hafiz Abdul Shakur and Qasim Jain. Well, Home Minister Rajnath Singh yesterday said there was no reason to disbelieve Pakistan's assurance that it will take effective action on the inputs given about the perpetrators of the Pathankot terror attack. After the attack, India had provided actionable intelligence to Pakistan, seeking action against the perpetrators of the terrorist act. India has identified Masood Azhar as the mastermind of the attack and has called on Islamabad to act on the information if the Foreign Secretary level talks are to take place as scheduled on the 15th of January.
पाकिस्तान गवर्नमेंट ने आश्वस्त किया है कि वो प्रभावी कार्रवाई करेंगे। मैं समझता हूं कि इसके संबंध में अभी आप प्रतीक्षा कीजिए और चूंकि पाकिस्तान गवर्नमेंट ने आश्वस्त किया है तो उस पर अविश्वास करने का कोई कारण अभी नहीं है।
Meanwhile, the United States has said it is encouraged by the fact that the Pakistan government has condemned the Pathankot terror attack and promised a thorough investigation. State Department spokesperson John Kirby said that Pakistan has assured of a thorough and fair probe. He also said that the US would like the two countries to continue with their peace talks. Last week, US Secretary of State John Kerry had asked Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif to find out the truth and stressed on the need to stay focused on the pressing challenge of terrorism in the entire region. And after days of suspense, the PDP has finally clarified that it will form the Jammu and Kashmir government with alliance partner BJP. This will take place once Mehbooba Mufti comes out of mourning. PDP spokesperson Mehboob Beg said both parties will operate within the framework already formulated by the party under late Chief Minister Mufti Muhammad Saeed and the BJP. Beg also said neither party had set preconditions. The PDP statement now puts at rest speculations about the delay in naming the Chief Minister by the party. The PDP had maintained silence beyond the 4-day mourning that ended on Sunday. Senior party leaders said that Mehbooba was not yet in a proper frame of mind to assume her new role as party chief as well as the Chief Minister. The consumer price index inflation edged up for the 5th straight month in December to 5.6%. The CPI has risen sharply due to surge in food inflation. Meanwhile, the country's industrial output contracted by 3.2% in November.
Food price pressures weighed heavily on retail inflation in the month of December. CPI inflation rose to 5.61% in December from 5.41% in November and 4.28% a year ago. Inflation has risen due to spike in food inflation to 6.4% from 6.07% in November. In rural and urban areas, inflation rates for food items were 6.41% and 6.31% respectively. The CPI data has been consecutively hardening for the past 4 months. It has risen from levels of around 3.7% in July 2015 to the current level.
Inflation number that came in
That is also higher.
yeah, higher, but remember that was also affected quite by the pulses. Pulses, prices increased by some 45%, even more than 45%. That obviously had an impact as well. But I think on the inflation front, looking ahead, there's probably some good news because oil prices have come down even further.
Dismal manufacturing sector output logged industrial output for November to 3.2% from 9.8% in October. Manufacturing production declined by 4.4% compared with 4.7% a year before. Mining rose just 2.3% in November against 4% a year earlier, while electricity production barely rose 0.7% in November.
This number has been affected by at least two one-off factors. One is the fact that Diwali fell in November, so there were fewer working days, and also some impact of the Chennai flood was also probably present. So if you look at the numbers for the year as a whole, it's still higher than last year's. Data are consistent with what we said in the mid-year analysis. That is that, the economy is probably recovering, but it's sending mixed messages.
Retail inflation is drawing closer to the RBI's target of 6% for January 2016. The surge implies that the Reserve Bank of India is likely to hold policy rates in its monetary policy next month. Coming just days before the union budget, RBI will keenly watch the fiscal roadmap adopted by the government. This is Kriti Mishra's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, the social sector is demanding more funds for anti-poverty schemes in the upcoming budget. In line with this, various organizations yesterday urged Finance Minister Arun Jaitley to allocate more funds under the National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. At a pre-budget consultation meeting with Finance Minister Arun Jaitley, representatives of social organizations urged the government to focus on social security, strengthen schemes like Narega, implementation of the Right to Education Act, and welfare for the low-caste Dalits.
सरकार जो है शेड्यूल कास्ट सब प्लान और ट्राइबल सब प्लान को लेके एक केंद्रीय कानून लाए और 125वीं जयंती जो बाबा साहब डॉक्टर अम्बेडकर की है उसमें बाबा साहब को श्रद्धांजलि देने के लिए एससी, एसपी और टीएसपी के लिए केंद्रीय कानून एक बड़ी अच्छी उनको श्रद्धांजलि होगी.
The organizations pointed out that last year, the budget allocation for Dalits plummeted by 50%. Out of the amount allocated to Dalits, only a little portion was directly meant for them. They also say that bringing all schools of India under the RTE Act is still a distant dream. Narega itself needs more attention from the government, especially after many parts of the country were hit by drought last year, leaving many jobless.
मीडिया में आ रहा है कि नरेगा में फिर से रिवाइवल हो रहा है. इसमें मंत्री ने भी मांग किया है और हमने भी कि इसी साल के बजट में और 5,000 करोड़ दिया जाए ताकि जो नरेगा अच्छे से चलने लगी है और जिसका डिमांड है वो पूरा हो, नहीं तो वो एक्ट का क्रेडिबिलिटी हट जाएगा.
Introduced in 2006, Narega allows villagers to enroll for work related to creating rural infrastructure while receiving minimum wages for 100 days a year. Supporters say the income helped improve nutrition levels and reduce child labor, especially when crops fail. By raising rural consumption, it has also contributed to creating new markets. While most of the Narega workers are women, lower caste or tribal community members, critics call Narega a deeply flawed scheme and a burden on taxpayers. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. Moving on. Unhappy with the Supreme Court ban on jallikattu, Tamil Nadu Chief Minister Jayalalithaa has written to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, urging him to promulgate an ordinance to facilitate holding the traditional sport. Jayalalithaa recalled that she had requested the central government on the 22nd of December to bring in an ordinance to allow the sport. Now, considering the urgency of the issue, she reiterated her request. She urged Prime Minister Modi to take immediate action in this regard, keeping in view the sentiments of the people of Tamil Nadu. She also added that arrangements have already been made by organizers all over the state for conducting jallikattu. So as we told you yesterday, the Supreme Court put on hold the controversial bull running sport. It came just 8 days after the centre lifted a ban on jallikattu. The centre's decision was seen as a significant one in the face of assembly elections in Tamil Nadu this year.
The centre's argument for lifting the ban on jallikattu did not hold much ground in the Supreme Court on Tuesday. Despite opposition by animal rights activists, the centre had lifted the ban just days before Pongal. But with the Supreme Court now staying that order, this year too, the sport will not be part of Pongal festivities.
नोटिफिकेशन जो था वो स्पेसिफिकली जल्लीकट्टू तमिलनाडु और बुल कार्ट रेस महाराष्ट्र, गुजरात, कर्नाटक आदि में, पंजाब एटसेट्रा में अलाउ कर रहा था. इसीलिए सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने इस पर पूर्ण प्रतिबंध लगाते हुए इस तरह की किसी भी स्पोर्ट को ऑर्गेनाइज करने पर रोक लगा दी है.
नोटिफिकेशन इशू करी है, दैट इज एब्सोल्युटली कॉन्ट्ररी टू द सुप्रीम कोर्ट जजमेंट और जो हमारा कानून है प्रिवेंशन ऑफ क्रुएल्टी टू एनिमल्स एक्ट. सो आज सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने जो अब नोटिफिकेशन इशू हुई है उसको स्टे कर दिया है.
I am saddened that we had to go back to the Supreme Court for what I thought was a absolutely clear-cut order which we had received earlier, and that we had to go back and fight the case all over again.
The Modi government had on 8th January lifted the 4-year-old ban on jallikattu, albeit with certain provisions. The centre's notification was challenged in the Supreme Court by the Animal Welfare Board of India, People for Ethical Treatment of Animals India and a Bangalore-based NGO. The BJP says it will now look for legal options.
Definitely we wanted to respect the sentiments of Tamil people, and we did some efforts to counter the argument and to lift the ban. So we did it with good intention. Now the law has put a block. Let us see, wait and watch, and we have to analyze the situation, and again we have to try to take back the ban.
It is a rude shock to the people of Tamil Nadu that the Supreme Court has ordered a interim ban. The government did not realize the importance of the event and how it is conducted. They are totally unaware.
I think maybe in a way this is a welcome change. That is my personal opinion, because as I said even earlier, that somewhere it is cruelty to either not discussing the merits or demerits really of jallikattu.
The issue, coming as it does just months before assembly elections in Tamil Nadu, is also mired in political colours. With inputs from Ravindra Shoran, Bureau Report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Time for a very short break at this point, but news and updates will continue on the other side. Don't go anywhere.
Hemkund Sahib, sacred shrine of the Sikhs, widely acclaimed for being the highest in the world, located in the Himalayas at an altitude of 15,200 feet. The Gurudwara is designed with an image of an upside-down lotus flower.
Welcome back. You're watching Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha TV. Now, on the final day of his 3-day visit to Kerala today, Vice President Mohammed Hamid Ansari is scheduled to declare the state as the first in the country to have achieved total primary education. The declaration will also mark the culmination of the second phase of the Atulyam Class 4 equivalency program for persons aged between 15 and 50. The program is run by the Kerala State Literacy Mission Authority. The Vice President is also slated to visit the famous Shivagiri Mutt in Varkala before flying back to Delhi. Yesterday, the Vice President said tolerance alone was not strong enough foundation for building an inclusive and pluralistic society. He also made a strong pitch for interfaith dialogue to remove misunderstanding. Inaugurating an interfaith conference in Kerala yesterday, The Vice President said, along with tolerance, it was important to accept and understand religions in order to build an inclusive and pluralistic society. Quoting Swami Vivekananda, Vice President Ansari said, we must not only tolerate other religions, but positively embrace them, as truth is the basis of all religions. He said the institutions of the state must ensure that the principles of secularism is observed in letter and spirit in public life.
The purpose of interfaith dialogue is to increase our understanding of and respect for other religious systems and institutions, and thereby increasing our appreciation of their values. To promote real understanding, inter-religious and interfaith dialogue has to be more than mere words or talk. It must include human interaction and relationships.
And a look now at all the events lined up for today in our segment, The Day Ahead. The Supreme Court will hear a plea filed by the FSSAI challenging the Bombay High Court order on the Maggi controversy. The petition argues that the High Court order is creating a hurdle in the way of the food regulator to perform its statutory function of testing food materials. The Bombay High Court had said that labs can carry out testing only after being accredited. The petition also points out 119 errors in the High Court order, saying the court erred in allowing the company to give samples of its own choice. The Apex Court will also hear a PIL seeking steps taken by the centre to formulate a law to protect whistleblowers in the country. The PIL has also been filed by NGO Parivartan. In its last hearing, the court had directed the centre to create a mechanism for dealing with complaints of whistleblowers and their safety till the time there is no law. The centre will respond on the proposal today. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley will hold a pre-budget consultation meeting with leading economists today. Yesterday, he held similar meetings with representatives of different social sector groups and banking institutions. The meeting was attended by Minister of State for Finance Jayant Sinha, Niti Aayog Vice Chairman Arvind Panagria and secretaries in the Ministry of Finance. The customary pre-budget consultations are considered important as it helps the government in formulating policies. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal will visit Pathankot and Gurdaspur today. He will meet the families of the security personnel who were killed in the Pathankot terror attack. He is also scheduled to address a political conference on Maghi Mela tomorrow at Muktsar as the party is eyeing to wrest power in the 2017 assembly polls in Punjab. And moving on to the international front, the big international news today. US President Barack Obama delivered his final State of the Union address on Capitol Hill today. Obama's speech focused on his administration's political legacy and the major challenges that lie ahead for the country. It also outlined upcoming policy agenda that includes controversial issues like gun control and the closure of the prison at Guantanamo Bay. Let's listen in to what Obama said in his last State of the Union address.
Let me start with the economy and a basic fact. The United States of America, right now, has the strongest, most durable economy in the world. We're in the middle of the longest streak of private sector job creation in history. More than 14 million new jobs, the strongest 2 years of job growth since the 1990s, an unemployment rate cut in half. Our auto industry just had its best year ever. That's just part of a manufacturing surge that's created nearly 900,000 new jobs in the past 6 years. And we've done all this while cutting our deficits by almost 3/4. But as we focus on destroying ISIL, over-the-top claims that this is World War III just play into their hands. Masses of fighters on the back of pickup trucks, twisted souls plotting in apartments or garages, They pose an enormous danger to civilians. They have to be stopped. But they do not threaten our national existence. That is the story ISIL wants to tell. That's the kind of propaganda they use to recruit. We don't need to build them up to show that we're serious. And we sure don't need to push away vital allies in this fight by echoing the lie that ISIL is somehow representative of one of the world's largest religions. Our brand of democracy is hard. But I can promise that a little over a year from now, when I no longer hold this office, I will be right there with you as a citizen, inspired by those voices of fairness and vision, of grit and good humor and kindness that have helped America travel so far. Voices that help us see ourselves not first and foremost as black or white or Asian or Latino, not as gay or straight, immigrant or native born, not Democrat or Republican, but as Americans first, bound by a common creed. Voices Dr. King believed would have the final word. Voices of unarmed truth and unconditional love.
So the US president there trying to strike an optimistic note in his final State of the Union address. Moving on, the Turkish police detained 59 suspected Islamic State militants in raids carried out across 5 different provinces. This came a day after a suicide bomber killed at least 10 people and wounded 15 others in Istanbul. Most of them were German tourists. Both Turkey and Germany condemned the attack and promised to continue the fight against terror.
A suicide bomb explosion in the heart of Istanbul city, killing at least 10 people, mostly German tourists, and injuring 15 others. This was the Islamic State's first major attack on Turkey's vital tourism industry. It followed raids at 5 different provinces where police detained 59 people on suspicions of having links with the Islamic State.
Ve saldırıyı bu anlamda gerçekleştiren DAEŞ terör örgütüne karşı verdiğimiz mücadeleyi de bundan sonra aynı kararlılıkla sürdüreceğimizi bir kez daha ifade etmek istiyorum. Bu çerçevede bir kez daha uluslararası topluma çağrıda bulunmak istiyorum. Bugün karşı karşıya kaldığımız terörün en önemli kaynaklarından birisi Suriye'deki iç gerilim ve ortaya çıkan güvenlik boşluğudur.
Meanwhile, Germany's crisis reaction cabinet gathered immediately after the Istanbul attack. Chancellor Angela Merkel vows to act decisively against terrorism.
Wir müssen feststellen, heute traf es Istanbul, es traf Paris, es traf Tunesien, es traf auch Ankara schon. Das heißt, der internationale Terrorismus zeigt sich heute wieder einmal mit seinem grausamen und menschenverachtenden Gesicht. Und neben der Trauer, die wir heute natürlich spüren,
in a sign of defeating terror, a Norwegian man injured in the attack expressed hope that he would come out of this trauma. Other tourists also expressed to continue their tour in the city.
I just have one day left, but if I was staying longer, I would stay. I come from a country that is also violent, so I don't think terrorism should take the hold of us, and then we should be brave about it.
I don't know so much because I feel okay because I don't know so much, but now you just told me that they died 10 persons, so yeah, I feel worried.
Turkish authorities said that the suicide bomber could have recently crossed into Turkey from Syria and was not on their terror watch list. The attack in the Sultan Ahmed Square near the Blue Mosque and Hagia Sophia is Istanbul's major tourist sites. Turkey is a NATO member and candidate for accession to the European Union. It's also a prominent part of the US-led coalition against Islamic State fighters who seized territory in neighboring Syria and Iraq. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And after the UN received credible reports of people dying of starvation there, evacuation calls have increased to save the town of Madaya. The UNSC is holding a special meeting to discuss the issue as aid trickles into the rebel-held town.
The political tug-of-war continues in Syria.
with parties oblivious to the dire situation on the ground. With thousands trapped in the crossfire and many in urgent need of medical treatment, the United Nations Security Council held a meeting to discuss the crisis, mainly in the rebel-held town of Madaya. Credible reports of people dying of starvation there has raised alarm.
We saw people that are desperate, people that are cold, people that are hungry, people that have almost lost hope that the world cares about their plight. They are demanding that the international community does all it can to lift sieges wherever they are found, in Madaya, in Zabadani, in Deir ez-Zor, in Idlib, wherever siege is being used as a tactic in this conflict, it should not continue.
Well, we need full access, and that's what we agreed on in the ISSG meeting in New York and the UN Security Council. And we're raising it with all parties right now. We're pressing for it very hard. It has to happen.
The town has been under government siege for months. 4 trucks loaded with food and medical aid arrived on Monday, the first to be allowed into Madaya since mid-October. Aid was also delivered to 2 other towns, Foa and Kefraya, besieged by rebel forces in the northern province of Idlib.
We saw people who are severely malnourished, especially children. We saw people who are extremely thin, skeletons that are now barely moving. And we saw people who are evidently having been going without food, at least regular access to food, for a very long time. And that is the message we are also bringing out. The plight of the people we saw yesterday, and I am quite confident that this is the same in any of these settings where siege is being used as a tactic of war.
ليش نسبة الوفيات يوميا في مدينة مضايا بحالة الجو؟ يوميا شخص إلى شخصين على الأقل بسبب نقص التغذية وعدم تناول الطعام الدولي. في 200 أو 300 حالة إغماء بشكل يومي.
But these steps are trivial compared to the plight of the residents. A few locals were given permission to leave, but there are hundreds awaiting immediate evacuation.
أحرار الشام وجبهة النصرة وهدول عندهم أكل بس ما بيطعموا حدا. نحن دبرنا حنا نجيب الحشا إيش ناكلها.
أنا ملتهب الكبد معه وبدي أطلع معي التقرير الطبي بدي طلعه. لا في أدوية لا في دكاترة ما في شيء. صار له 3 أيام والسيرون معلق بإيده.
The blockade of Madaya has become a focal point for Syrian opposition leaders who are boycotting the talks with the Syrian regime later this month until this and all other sieges are lifted. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And for all the other international updates, here's a quick world wrap. 2 US Navy patrol boats and 10 crew members were seized by Iranian forces off the Farsi Island in the Persian Gulf on Tuesday. This after one of the 2 boats experienced mechanical problem and drifted into the Iranian territorial waters. Tehran, however, said the sailors will be returned promptly after Secretary of State John Kerry communicates directly with Iran. New York City established 2 special courts and created a police unit dedicated to gun-related investigations as part of an effort to cut gun crime. Project Fast Track was unveiled on Tuesday in an attempt to quickly and efficiently prosecute gun cases. The announcement has come a week after US President Barack Obama said he would take several executive actions aimed at reducing gun violence nationwide. Bombs dropped by suspected Russian warplanes killed at least 12 Syrian school children when they hit a classroom in a rebel-held town in Syria. The airstrike hit the town of Injara, 15 kilometers west of Aleppo city. A teacher also died in the attack. Russia has conducted over 5,000 airstrikes since it began its air offensive in Syria on the 30th of September. Baghdad has stepped up security measures after car bomb attacks near a shopping mall on Monday in which 18 people were killed. Combing operations are continuing in the nearby areas. Iraqi forces have also closed inbound traffic and stepped up security measures across the city. The Islamic State has claimed responsibility for the attack. That's it from us in this bulletin. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day.